This is the last video of part A. The topic, part 8.4, servlets working with HTTP. Yeah. All right, so first let me give you some descriptions of why we need to study this topic. The main reason is like this. Yeah. We just learned HTTP protocol. Yeah. So I hope you watched the videos for HTTP protocol. Yeah. Because our understanding of this video is based on that part, HTTP, details. Yeah. After you know the details of HTTP protocol, so think about, do you like to do the processing on the HTTP request and HTTP response based on the structure of those objects, right? Yeah. It is very tedious work. Yeah. So nobody wants to do that. Yeah. Although people can do it, but not efficient. Even if you can do it, you need to spend a lot of time to do that kind of processing. Still, not very productive, right? Yeah. So a better way is, we as programmers, Java programmers, we do not do it. Yeah. So we leave that translation part, conversion part. We leave that part, the dirty work, to the server, Java server, to do it. Yeah. So that's the reason. Yeah. So you do not see it. Java server does the dirty work. Yeah. But for this video, I'd like you to know what happened behind the scene. Although we do not do those things, but those things actually happen behind the scene. The server does all of them for us. Okay. All right. So what is the dirty work in web container? So here we use this container concept, web container. Okay. Here, let me describe this container a little bit. Yeah. You will see this term many, many times. What's the container? Okay. Container, the general description is general software running environment. So some particular software tool, in order to run that tool in main memory, you need to create a special environment for it. Okay? So that special environment we call container. So in that container, so you can do a lot of things related to that software tool. Yeah. All right. So for our web technology, so we use many different containers to run different technologies. Okay. For the server technology, we use servlet container. For JSP technology, we use JSP container. Yeah. Later, we can add new technologies, so we will use new containers. Yeah. But in general, so we don't want to separate which container, so we just call web container, because it's a general container containing all those general web technologies. Here, we may frequently, sometimes we use server, sometimes we use web container. Pretty much the same thing. All right. The dirty work that happened behind the scene inside the container. All right. Convert the raw HTTP request. What is the raw HTTP request? The structure we learned last time in our HTTP protocol. Okay? That structure we call the raw HTTP request. Okay? 3 components. Remember the 3 components, that details. Yeah. So inside the web container, there is some special tool, so that will convert raw HTTP requests to a standard, a typical Java object called this HTTP servlet request object. So it is a regular Java object. Okay, so get ready. Yeah. You have a Java object form. Yeah. Later, if you want to access the HTTP request data, you only need to access this object. Then you can get all the information you need from the original HTTP request. And the dirty parsing work, is done by the web container. Okay? So that's very convenient for Java programmers. Yeah. All right. Okay. Specifically, so the container does this, interpreting the request and reading the headers, yeah, and the parameters, right? You know, that kind of detail from the socket. So here, the socket about the networking. Yeah. Networking terminology, socket. Yeah. The socket is the low-level communication, networking communication. Yeah. Yeah. At a TCP/IP level, in order to create a connection between client and server, you need to create a socket object. Yeah. So containing the IP address, the port number, you know, then you do the connection. Okay. So that's the low-level networking things. But we as Java programmers, we don't want to go that low level, right? Socket level. We don't want to go that level. Okay. So we leave that level work to web container. Yeah. We just do the high-level programming. Okay. Yeah. Write our data processing methods in our servlets. Yeah. So you can see, yeah, that's quite different. Yeah. All right. Another thing, yeah. So that's the request part. The response part, similar things. When you send it back, then you need a web container to do the conversion another time. Okay? Yeah. All right. Convert the return Java object. Yeah. Return the Java object is in the form of HTTP servlet response. Okay? Yeah. When you write your data back to the HTTP response object, you write it directly inside your servlets. Okay? Yeah. Then, after you send this object back to the client, the server or the web container needs to do some conversion before you send that data back to the client. Okay? So you cannot send this object directly to your client, because the client, at the client side, the web browser cannot understand this object. Web browser cannot understand this object. So your web container needs to do the conversion, convert it to raw HTTP response object. HTTP response, that object. Okay, original HTTP response, you know, that form. Okay, then send that HTTP response form back to the client. Yeah. All right. So, what kind of work the container does? All right. Formatting response headers, the body, writing them back to the socket. Also, you know, socket level communication. We don't do that. Yeah. The web container does that for us. Yeah. Okay. All right. So now, if you understand, you know, that background processing, yeah, then we can feel much better. So when we work on the high level, okay? So at the high level, we only work with these two Java objects. So what they can do for us, yeah, so very simple. HTTP server request can do these things. Read parameters passed from the client. Okay. Read the parameters, remember, inside the URL part. Some parameters stored in the URL part, right? Or URI part, yeah, whatever, yeah. So read from that part. Yeah. Access files uploaded from a posted form. Yeah. Sometimes we can upload files in a form. Yeah. So there is some special place to store that uploaded file. Okay? Yeah. So this object can do that. Yeah. And read the raw data contained in the request body. Raw data. Yeah. So this time is the request body. Okay? That data is from the request line. Okay? The first line. This part. This part from the request body. We know in HTTP protocol, we know the data can be stored in those two places. One this place, another this place. Yeah. So this object can get all those things. Yeah. All right. Read request headers. Yeah. Also, some important information stored in request headers, yeah, including that cookie, right? The cookies, IP address also stored there. Okay? User agent. Yeah. So we mentioned several pieces of information stored in the request headers. Yeah. All right. HTTP server response. These two things manipulate response headers. Yeah. In our discussion last time, we mentioned that content type, that's the header part. That part we need to address. What is the specific content type when we send the data back to the clients? Okay, so that one. Yeah. Write response content back to the client. Then the main data part in the body, response body. Yeah. All right. So all these things, yeah. So you can see, yeah, the way we use these two objects, Java objects, and something we do not do, but they actually happen. Yeah. All right. So then you can understand there is no magic. Yeah. Something does the dirty work. Yeah. So there is no magic. Yeah. And we, as the Java programmers, we enjoy the result. All right, so we complete part A.